the best use of a lean leader's time or a business owner's time is to focus on the people that really get it and try and make that number bigger instead of trying to go wide and get everybody involved. If you want to do one morning meeting a week, if that suits your company, it might be an online Zoom meeting, might be once a week. The key message here is to find a way that suits your business.
So Ryan, this is a super special episode. We're celebrating 30 episodes and we're celebrating the podcast reaching 100 different countries around the world. So you put the message out there in all the lean channels. Do you have any questions? What are you struggling with? And we have a whole pile of questions here that we are going to get through that hopefully will be super valuable for everyone listening.
Yeah, sounds good.
So first one is, how do you deal with members on your team who are non-believers? You know, business owner writes in, they're trying to make their company transition into a lean organization and they're not getting the buy-in from everybody. What do you say to that?
Yep. I think it's good to start off this podcast by saying that lean is hard work. And I'd be the first person to say that. Because sometimes when people come across our videos on YouTube, we often get comments like, oh, you make it all look too easy. And you've almost oversimplified it. And I just want to make it really clear that yes, it's simple, but there's a lot of work
lean made too simple.
there is a lot of work that goes behind the scenes creating what we've created. There absolutely is. And can every company do it? Yes, they can. But will every company do it? No way, they won't. Because there's a lot of work and discipline to get to the level that we've got to and the level that all other companies have got to. So
yeah, and simplicity and easy are very different things. Actually, to simplify things is incredibly hard. That's where all the work goes into.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people come on a Lean Made Simple tour to see what we've done, the first question is exactly the question that we're starting off with. How do we get people to buy in? That's probably the biggest question. And it's good that we started the podcast with this. And it's not going to be a short answer. If it was, it'll be too easy. But how to get people to buy in? First of all, that has to be a decision from the top of the company, from the business owner, from the leaders that we are doing this. We're absolutely a lean organization. We're a lean company. It's not this thing that we do when the orders are quiet. It's not this thing we do when we get time. You're either a lean organization or you're not. You know, I often tell the story, it's a great way to explain it. Like, I play the piano sometimes. There might be 2 or 3 weeks go past where I don't play the piano. And then I get all into it and I might play every night for a full week. And then I might forget about it for a few months again. But I wouldn't call myself a pianist. A pianist plays all the time. It's in their habitual nature to just go and play the piano. I'm not a pianist. I'm a person who plays the piano sometimes. That this is the way it is here. We're an organization that continually improves and makes small changes to make our jobs and life easier. Once that decision is made, that makes everything else so much easier.
And you need to prove to your people that you're serious. And that might take a bit of time because how often, I mean, you and I are so guilty of this. You read a book, you go to a conference, you get fired up by an idea. Like the types of people who are typically leaders are people who get excited about new ideas and they're visionary. So most teams are probably like, here we go again.
Yeah.
So how do you prove like that this is actually a serious commitment?
Yep. I think the first thing is realizing that it is a serious commitment and realizing that it's a cultural change just as much as a physical organizational change. It's a cultural shift. It really is. And what is culture? The simplest definition I can find on culture is that culture is group habit. That's really all it is. Culture is group habit. So how does what's your culture like? Well, you can see by the habits of your team.
Wow.
So culture is group habit. So how do we change the culture? We do it really, really slowly and really, really gradually. And my father often told this story. His father, my grandfather, was a sheep farmer.
Oh, wow.
And quite a small farm in rural Northern Ireland. But my father he always related change, whether it be change in an organisation or change in thinking or any type of change. The best way to create change was to make change slow and gradual and incremental. and explained that when my grandfather was rounding up the sheep in the field to try and get them into a pen, he used a sheepdog. Why did he use a sheepdog? Because the sheepdog was really slow, moved around the edge of the field, kind of hid in the grass, but quietly and confidently, over the space of a few minutes, got the sheep into the pen. The sheepdog got the desired outcome. But it was really slow about it, really, easy, working slow, whereas the bulldog goes in and splits all the sheep up.
Right.
So what a lot of people do when they come across something like lean, or they come across some new concept that they get really excited about, they go back to their company like a bulldog and say, we're going to do this. It's called lean manufacturing. It's going to change our company. We're going to reduce all this waste and everybody has to improve, and this is the new way forward. Well, I can tell you right now that that's the wrong way to do it, because we actually done that. We were very much like the bulldog at the start, and I had to think back to my father's teachings and think more like the sheepdog. So how do we get the non-believers on board with lean? How do we get people to engage in making small improvements to their job? We start very slow and very gradual. And if somebody doesn't get it, that's okay. Just leave them for a month. Don't try and don't push it. Just use pull instead of push. Just leave them alone for a few months and come back to them in a few months. Focus on the people that do get it and try and make that number bigger instead of trying to go wide and get everybody involved. So the best use of a lean leader's time or a business owner's time is to focus on the people that really get it and make that group grow really slow and incrementally. And don't worry about the people that don't get it, because they will get on board. They absolutely will.
Yeah.
Or else they'll decide that it's maybe not for them and they may move on. But we haven't found that. We haven't really found that. Most people got on board because we tried to do it gradually and easily.
Have you ever let somebody go for not getting on board, not getting on the bus?
Well, we haven't, and we're really proud of that, actually, that we've never had to bring someone into the office and say,
you're not lean enough.
You can't work here. It's just, we've never had to do it, and we won't do it. Our culture is so intense almost and so strong that you either buy in or you kind of leave on your own.
Right.
People opt out.
So people will almost like filter themselves out.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you guys are at the point now where like you have such a reputation where probably, correct me if I'm wrong, probably gets to the point now where like people don't apply unless they might be even a little bit interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the recruitment process that you know exactly what you're getting in for before you start. I think it's actually one of the questions that somebody has asked us for the podcast today.
So let's just do that right now, because I don't think I've ever actually heard you share your recruitment process publicly. And it's one of the most mind-blowing things that I've ever heard you say. And at this stage, I've heard you say a lot of things. So can you actually walk through like what it looks like to get a job at Seaton Matters? Because I think this will unlock that original question of not only what do you do with the non-believers, but like how do you recruit the right types of people in the first place? Something
that we're tweaking all the time. We're continuously improving and changing the way we do it, obviously.
We wouldn't be like it.
And it's different for different types of roles as well. I would like to say that. It's not the same for a new accountant than it is for somebody in production. There's different processes for onboarding or for recruiting new people. So what we do is ask for a video. So a 2-minute video, and you submit the video by WhatsApp to our office telling us why you would like to work at Seaton Matters.
Wow.
So it's a bit about yourself and why we think you would be a good fit. And we can tell so much from that video. We used to read through all these CVs, and they were sitting, a big bundle of CVs, this thickness sitting on the desk. Nobody had time to read them. And you can't even really tell.
What does it even mean?
What does it even mean?
Just random letters on a page. Yeah.
It is. But you can tell so much from that 2-minute video. And you can get straight to the point, and you can look at the video and say, yes, I see that person fitting in. The next stage then is that we will invite that person to a morning meeting. So one of our lean morning meetings, which we hold 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday. And we kind of watch to see how that person interacts with the meeting, because a lot of people come to the meeting and they're so freaked out because it's so different and they're so out of their comfort zone, and they're like, oh, this isn't for me.
Right.
I wouldn't fit in here, and that's okay. So we're better knowing at the start instead of waiting 3 months to find out they don't like it.
Your recruitment process is really identifying the true believers before they even start.
Yeah.
Because even like if I was applying for a job, I'm like, flip me, I don't want to make a video of myself. I don't want to WhatsApp. What's that all about? I just want to fill out a CV. It's like, the people who don't do that, you've just lost like maybe 80% of people right off the bat, which is phenomenal for you guys. It's exactly what you want.
That's right. And we're encouraging people to send a 2-minute video, because when they work at our company, we're sending videos all the time.
Right.
So it's getting them comfortable with that, because that's what they have to do if they're successful in getting the job.
You're setting your stall out early.
Yeah.
You're being explicit. This is what it's like working here, guys. And you've weaved that into the process. Yeah, I love it.
So the next stage then is that person, if they're successful at the morning meeting and we like how they're interacting at the morning meeting, if we see their eyes lighting up and they're like, oh, this is amazing, I'd love to work here. If we can see that spark in their eye, that's a good sign that we should go to the next stage. The next stage is a trial day. So they come for a half day or a full day, and they work in the environment where they're potentially going to be working. And then the next thing is really interesting. What we do then is we ask all the people around that area, or all the people they're engaging with and working with, we take them to the side and say, what was the candidate like that was in this morning? How did they interact? Did they ask questions? Did they seem interested? And we allow them to make the decision. Which is really smart, because if that person is successful and they get the job, the onus is on everybody around them to make them successful.
A wee bit of total ownership going on there.
Well, ownership, yeah. Because they have had a hand in the recruitment process. They feel a bit of ownership of, right, I give my approval and my say, and I feel like I'm going to help to make this new person successful. It's really simple. It's video, morning meeting, trial day, and then we do, that's it. It's a 3-month trial, and if they're successful after that, it's all good.
It's amazing. And back to the sheepdog story, I think the really interesting thing is that like it gets to the point now, I'm not going to pretend to be a farmer, okay? So I'm just going to state that explicitly. I'm just dealing with this from a conceptual level. It gets to the point where for a lot of sheep, the sheepdog doesn't even have to do its job anymore. Like the sheep will just know this is the way things are done. At this time, they see the dog and they'll kind of just go into the pen themselves.
Yeah.
And you only need, from a cultural perspective, like Seth Godin, who I love, he's got a great definition of culture, which says people like us do things like this. Mm-hmm. And so your culture becomes self-enforcing because you have, once, as you say, you make that group of true believers big enough, you're the weird one if you're not doing it the way everyone else does it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It becomes weird, and you're an outsider if you're not doing it the way that everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went to your factory, you shared a metaphor, an example of a glass of orange juice or something.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I remember that now, yeah.
What is that?
That's actually something we do on the tour sometimes, because if people ask a question of how do we engage new people, how do we introduce them into the culture, how long does it take new people to get on board with how we think and doing the improvements? And the best way that I can think to describe that is if you imagine a glass of pure orange juice. So it's really bright yellow, pure orange, bright orange. And we put 1 drop of water into that juice, it doesn't change the colour. Because the colour and the juice is so concentrated, it's so intense that it would take a lot of water to dilute that colour. It would take a lot of people not engaging to dilute the message. So because the culture is so strong, because the pure orange is so pure, it's a bright orange, that new person coming in gets on board with the new way of thinking, like on their first day.
Yeah.
Like we have people making improvements and engaging in the culture on their first and second day. Why? Because everybody around them is doing the same thing, and it's so easy to get on board.
And it's also why whenever you said it has to come from the leadership has to make the decision. It's almost like an identity shift. It's like we are a lean organization.
Yeah.
We're not people who just do a wee bit of lean.
Exactly.
There's a great book called Turning Pro by a guy called Stephen Pressfield, and he talks about whatever it is, if you want to become a piano player, you have to say, I am a pianist.
Yes.
Or if you want to become a writer, say, I am a writer. Like there needs to be that identity shift, and everything comes from there. So I just had a picture of like the lean leader has to become the glass of orange juice, and then the potency of the leader is what will actually spread that through the organization. So it's very, very powerful. You said something really interesting there. You know, how do you get other people on board? One of the questions here from Jeff Parson, shout out to Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate you. Is how do you coach people to follow a standard? Because I don't know if it's just a Northern Irish thing, but most people don't like to be told what to do. And so whenever you come in and you say, this is exactly the way something has to be done, the exact steps and processes, there can be some natural resistance there. So how do you, from a cultural perspective, make that work?
Yep, it's a really good question. And we try and take everything back to the customer. So we always start with the why. It's the famous Simon Sinek, start with why. Why are we following a standard? So we can make the product to the correct spec. Why do we want to make the product to the correct spec? So that with no defects. Why do we not want any defects? Because we don't want to pass defects on to the customer. Why do we not want to pass any defects to the customer? Because we're here to serve the customer.
Right.
That's our entire job, is to serve the customer. The entire reason we're here is to serve the customer. The entire reason we're doing lean is to serve the customer. So when people understand that it's not something that their boss is trying to get them to do, but they understand why they're doing it, I think that's the shift that people need.
That's a massive, massive unlock.
And how can we get people to understand why? Well, then that's where the morning meeting comes in. And that's when we're showing testimonials from our customer. That's when we're connecting the work that we're doing in production or in the factory to the patient, in our case, to the patient who's sitting in the Seating Matters chair. So 2 or 3 times a week, we'll put photographs and videos up of the patient's life transforming. That's why the bolt has to go in this way.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to position the actuator in the chair this way. Because it's not about your manager checking your work. It's about the customer that's sitting in the chair.
And it's that context. And that speaks to why it's so important to have a very compelling company mission.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it shifts from, flip's sake, this guy Ryan is so pernickety, to like, oh, I want to make sure that someone who's disabled sitting in this chair has a good experience. Yeah. But that's a totally different.
It is.
Different mindset shift. Wow. And you guys make it very explicit, and I like how you take a rhythms approach to it. Like I even remember from that first factory tour, it's all coming back to me now because of the orange juice. In the morning meeting, and it was literally like a 5-second part of your morning meeting. And I remember writing it down in my book. This is the most powerful part of the whole meeting. And you guys had a number that flashed up on screen of how many chairs you were going to make that day.
Yeah.
But what the words on the screen said and what the person who was leading the meeting said is, we are making X amount of life changes.
Changing chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not just making random widgets. It's like, no. Every single person in this company is being involved in transforming someone's life today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane.
And not every company has the strong emotional appeal that we have. We are actually changing people's lives through our seating. We're taking people that have been maybe lying in bed for 2 years, and the first time they've been able to sit up is when they get one of our chairs. Like that's life changing. So there's a very strong connection. There's a lot of emotion there. But for a company that maybe doesn't make such an emotional product, it's important to still carve out that.
There's a story.
There's always a story.
That's the job of the leader, is to tell a compelling story.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of like one of the CEOs that I really love is a guy called Gary Ridge. He's the CEO of WD-40.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, no disrespect to WD-40. It's like, where's the emotion there? Where's the compelling story? It's like something that makes something not squeaky. Do you know what I mean? And they have been able to tell a very, very, very compelling story and get incredible buy-in from their people because they were able to find what that story was and build excitement around it and build identity into it and all this sort of stuff. It's very cool. On that note of standards, like this is a great, great question. This is creativity. The perception of creativity is that there needs to be, you know, all this space and no rigidity and no rules. Someone's asked here, how do you balance the tension between getting someone to follow a standard to the T and expecting them to make all these creative, genius, new improvements? Like, it seems like an oxymoron.
On one hand, we're telling people follow the standard.
Yeah.
But we're also telling people to improve the standard. Yeah. There's kind of two things going on there. It's actually really interesting when you think about it. But I think the way we have our routine set up in our company, so every morning it's the same routine, or kata, the Japanese word would be kata, your daily kata. So our daily kata is morning meeting, then we have improvement time, and then we work. So that improvement time is 15 minutes or 30 minutes of freedom to go and improve. If you see something that can be better, go and have a go at it, experiment, you know, use tools and materials and people from other departments and get your heads together and experiment and try things out. So there is a certain amount of experimentation, creativity and freedom built into our day. So in a normal company that doesn't do lean, and in a normal company that doesn't have that allocated time of freedom, I do agree that it would be difficult to be creative when you're just working all the time.
Right.
But I also like the fact that it's capped, not capped in a sense of restricting people, but it's a dedicated 30 minutes of freedom. So we're almost saying be creative, but it has to be within this frame, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And because it's not just like, you know, a full shift of just like, I just had a funny image in my head of like, you know, like paint being thrown all over the factory and all this chaos, because like creativity without constraint is chaos. So you've talked a lot about the morning meeting, and there's 20 questions here, literally from this is New Zealand, someone in South America, someone in South of Ireland, like someone in Australia, and they're all asking things about morning meetings. But if I was to bundle a lot of these morning meeting stuff together, it really comes down to, Ryan, I can't get my people to engage.
Yeah.
They think it's weird. They're shy. I don't know how to get. Really, it's another buy-in question. Could you maybe answer that question by sharing with us, as honest as you feel comfortable being, of like how your first few morning meetings were? Because I think it's important to kind of break the facade a little bit.
One of the quotes that I really love is that comparison is a thief of joy. Don't compare yourself with us. Actually, don't compare yourself with anybody. Be on your own journey. If you want to do one morning meeting a week, if that suits your company, or 2 morning meetings, 3, 4, we're currently doing 4 morning meetings a week. We used to do 5, but we didn't need the 5th day, so now we're doing 4. But for a service-based organisation out there that doesn't have all of their people together in one place, it might be an online Zoom meeting twice a week, it might be once a week. I think the key message here is to find a way that suits your business. Don't take the Seaton Matters way, don't take the Lean Made Simple way, and think that you have to replicate that same thinking. You don't at all. Because our morning meetings started off very, very basic. There was myself, Martin, Jonathan, a couple of others holding the morning meeting, and it was just us standing around with a 1 page with 5 questions on it, and there was no buy-in, there was no interaction, there was no questions. It was the most awkward thing that I've ever done, standing in front of everybody.
You were super confident, like you were just came up there like a TED speaker, no fear in your body.
Absolutely not. The opposite, the complete opposite, because I was trying to introduce this new weird thing called lean manufacturing. and nobody locally had done it before. We couldn't get in the car and go and drive to see this. We had to take ideas from all over the world, and we took the stretches from the Japanese. We took loads of ideas from Paul Akers at Fastcap. We took ideas from Michael at Yellow Tools, and we kind of made up our own version of the morning meeting. And when I was starting to implement that, I felt so awkward. I felt people were going to, like...
Well, you're dealing with like big, burly farmer type dudes. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, this is rural Northern Ireland. Like, these are big, tough guys. And you're like, all right, guys, we're going to do a wee hamstring stretch here.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Such a foreign idea. Everybody thought we were crazy. They really did. So we toned it down at the start. We just kind of asked people, has anybody any production issues, anything that they see can be better with their job? And slowly but surely, we just gradually, like the sheepdog again, gradually, continuously improved it, and it kind of ramped up to where it is today. But it was not an easy process at all. And for anybody starting off now with their morning meeting, find a way that suits your culture, find a way that suits your team, because you know your team best. Make a 5-minute meeting if it has to be. Do it twice a week if it has to be twice a week. Don't compare yourselves with the way we're doing it. Just find your own way. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
There's one thing that we've done, and I don't know if anybody has asked this as a question, but it's worth saying anyway, that the best thing we done for our morning meeting engagement was to rotate the host. So it's not the same people standing up there holding the meeting every day. It just goes alphabetical. And it's Jenny from the sewing department today. It's somebody from the office tomorrow. It's maybe my turn the next day. Everybody gets their turn to hold the meeting. Therefore, everybody engages in the meeting because they're supporting that person that's up there because they know it's their turn next.
Yikes. That's powerful.
It was a big learning for us.
I have a pretty spicy question here. I wasn't sure if I was going to ask this because it was a bit direct. I think you alluded to it earlier, but someone asks, like, Ryan, like, you make it look so easy. Is it real or is it a facade? Like, is this like an Instagram versus reality moment? Or what is it really like behind the scenes?
Yeah. I'm really happy that somebody asked that question.
Oh, hang on. Daniel's waving at us here. We're actually, I think we have to cut this for now. We'll come back. We'll do that in the next episode if that's okay. We will split this because our time is actually way over here. That's so funny. We only got to like 5 questions, so we'll definitely do a 2-parter. I mean, we'll see. Well, first of all, we'll ask you, like, is this something that you're interested in? Do you want more Q&A episodes? We have like so many questions here, and there's an infinite supply. Like, it's amazing to actually be addressing explicitly what people want rather than us just sitting here guessing. So we'll put this out as a part 1. We'll see if people want more. And we'll have like a wee EastEnders cliffhanger there at the very end. So I've really enjoyed. Like, I think this is really interesting. But ultimately, it's up to you, whoever is listening or watching. Let us know if you want more, and if you do, we'll do more. So yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.